the other big story in the past 2 weeks, there's been a huge amount of discussion in terms of the local politics to do with the resignation, to do with the 5-district resignation plan. And obviously there's been, within the Democratic camp, there's been a lot of heated debate, if you like, about whether to, exactly what to do, and different figures from the Democratic camp have come out. But perhaps, Simon, do you want to perhaps explain, thinking about our international audience, about the situation?
Sure.
About it?
I think when we used to say one day is just too long in politics, and we haven't seen each other for 2 weeks.
That's right.
And I mean, just before the weekend, my goodness, so much has happened. First of all, I mean, nothing is new in the sense that there has been a rivalry in terms of disagreements about whether the mass resignation is a good strategy, and that is still going on. But in the meantime, there was the news. You do have something which didn't happen last time when we were having a discussion, was that you do have the so-called the big brother of the Democratic camp, Sito Wah, came out and being quite bitter and openly criticizing the League of Social Democrats and also indeed Citizens Party, because those two parties were now considering working together when it comes to the mass resignation. So Sito Wah was very busy last week, showing up in dozens of media interviews, criticizing LSD and Citizens Party. Not only them, but there's a new term called the Gang of Four. Of course, we're not referring to the Cultural Revolution, but we're referring to the Apple Daily boss, Jimmy Lai. He was the way they use it, he was masterminding, or he had another 3 comrades working with him, which is Anson Chan, Alan Lee, and Martin Lee. So the 4 of them, according to Sito Wah, they had a backroom discussion or have a dinner, try to convince him to buy the idea of the mass resignation. So after that episode, it becomes even more complex because, first of all, you do have lots of people coming out and saying that this is backroom politics. Backroom politics, we wouldn't like any sort of behind the door discussion. But the citizens, that is, you have the Civic Party. I mean, you have OGU coming out saying that Sito Wah, he doesn't mention him Sito Wah, but of course we know she's referring to him, saying that in the future it's hard for them to have a discussion or concrete discussion to try to understand what the other party think, because you're trying to paint in the situation that it is something really evil to have that sort of discussion. So I mean, this is only one tiny bit of what went on last week, but already very juicy and dramatic.
Yes, and also in the past 2 weeks, Martin Lee has done a bit of a U-turn, basically, hasn't he? And because initially he was totally supportive of the idea of this resignation as a protest against the government, but now he seems to have done a U-turn and is more in line with what Sito Wah is saying about it. So that's what that's his line. And also, obviously, Albert Ho has come out. He came out with very strong language, saying, in his words, that he thought the mass resignation would be an act of surrender. That's the way he kind of viewed it. I've got to admit, I look at it quite differently, and I don't quite know what they call it the old guard, aren't they? These guys, old members of the Democratic Party who've been around a long time. I'm interested to have some discussion with you guys exactly what you think they're really up to. Really.
So weeks before, you do actually have the 2 old guards of the Democratic Party. On one hand, you have Sito Wah opposing the mass resignation idea, and on the other side, you have Martin Lee. But because when Sito Wah came out and openly being a bit bitter and openly critical of everything about the mass resignation, then on this very same day you have Martin Lee saying that perhaps it's time to rethink a little bit, because they thought that it's not a wise idea to have the pan-democratic campaign split.
Yeah, because I also read about it, that they had this conversation. There was an invitation. They had a sort of a discussion amongst the gang of four, isn't it? I think at Jimmy Lai's house that was reported in the newspapers. That
sounds like a war room, right?
Yeah, it does a bit. But obviously, they're clever guys, aren't they? They are thinking what they're doing, and so on. And obviously. It would be interesting to be a fly on the wall, wouldn't it? Listening to those kind of conversations, because a lot of decisions like that take place behind closed doors, and also obviously Anson Chan was there, and she was getting involved a bit, isn't she? Trying to sort of pull a weight on the whole issue as well.
But it's very interesting to look at how the leftist newspapers, the pro-Beijing newspapers, describe and portray this sort of backroom Jimmy Lai's dinner or Jimmy Lai's meeting. One angle was quite interesting, was from Tai Kung Pao. They're saying that in the past they would thought the big four, one of them would be Cardinal Zhang. But he seems now he's stepping down and being less involved in this. And Alan Lee is now there. And Alan Lee used to be quite ambiguous and used to be pro-Beijing. So now you have Alan Lee on the boat. Yeah. So they were quite surprised and also being critical of Alan Lee as well.
Because obviously Jimmy Lai, it sounds like he is supportive of the resignation plan, isn't he? But he was obviously in the idea to invite them round to sort of try and bring them over to his view, I think.
And Matt, you're a reader of Apple Daily yourself.
I do, every day. Every day. I do, every day. Anyway, we're going to have to stop now. We've got the second half coming up. We want more discussion. We can have some more discussion about this. Okay, thanks, guys.